There's so many businesses, I'm happy to give you a bunch of examples, but there's so many businesses where it's so obvious what I do and it's so obvious what this business does that to have an exclusion for that is absurd.
Okay.
And I'll give you an example. So we're suing a funeral home right now, and the funeral home has general liability insurance, and the general liability insurance has an exclusion for any damages that arise from mortuary services.
Okay.
And so his entire business, for which he has general liability insurance, is an exclusion. And it's almost like why do you even have a policy?
Sure. Okay. So, but the onus at that point, if he went through a broker, is the broker. Like, there's no situation where, I mean, could there be a situation where, he's like, wow, that one that includes the mortuary coverage is really expensive. Can you give me one without it? Like,
sure.
Okay.
Right. And then if he does that, then the onus is back on him because he read it, understood, or whatever.
Which is why you said earlier, have everything in writing.
Right. But more often than not, that didn't happen. Right. So he asked for, he went to 4 brokers, right, and explained to them maybe what he does. Hey, I own this funeral company, funeral director company, funeral services company.
And they were like, do you really want funeral coverage though?
Or they didn't, or they just didn't say anything at all.
Right.
And they said, of the 4 brokers, 3 of them gave him a policy that's $5,000 a month, and one of them gave him a policy, $5,000 a year, and one of them gave him a policy that's $2,000 a year. He's like, no brainer, $2,000 a year, but he doesn't understand
what he's missing.
Right.
That's fascinating. I guess, really quick sort of footnote there. If you're suing him, right? You said,
yeah,
and he now maybe is in a situation where his insurance provider misled him, right? He has to sue them. From a timeline perspective, right? For your client, how bad does that? You know what I mean? Because even if you are in the right and he's in the right, the funeral home, and they're gonna. This could take, I imagine, years. And
that's a great question, because what it does is it dissuades us as lawyers from even taking on that case.
Wow.
Because we're looking, especially, we talked about funeral cases for a while.
Sure.
And I don't want to get too far into the weeds on it, but the idea that if I look at a docket of a funeral home that's been sued 20 times, right? Mm-hmm. And I see, judgment, and this guy's not paying those judgment, it tells me that he doesn't have this proper insurance, so that the next client that calls me and says, I want to sue that funeral home, we're not going to do it.
Because there's no money there.
I'll get a judgment and then nobody's collecting, so we're all just wasting our time, right?
Interesting.
And then at the end of the day, it really should be probably on that funeral home owner to go back to his broker and say, hey, look, I have all these insurance claims that should have been accepted or covered if I had the proper insurance, but I don't. And so, I'm suing you, broker, for all these judgments.
And then that could take however many years that takes. All these judgments are sitting in a backlog and you're just waiting.
Right.
And potentially forever.
You probably will never get paid.